Oh man, we have a cat fight on our hands. This is pretty damn interesting. So, Candace Owens and Tomi Lahren are getting into it. Now, for some reason, I wasn't aware of their previous beef, but I guess they had a previous beef that I wasn't actually aware of. But it ended up resurfacing now. But basically, what ended up happening is as I talked about yesterday, I spoke about how the whole Blexit thing was going on, and Kanye West essentially turned his back on Candace and Charlie and pretty much everyone who he was promoting in terms of politics. Kanye came out with his little tweet thread where he explained that he was being used and he didn't know about it, and that he felt compassion for people who are seeking asylum, which I was surprised by. That essentially counters the main talking point or the main selling point of Trump in the first place, which was build the wall. So that was pretty surprising. So he basically said that he has nothing to do with Brexit whatsoever. It wasn't his idea in any way, shape, or form. And Brexit is this attempt to get people away from the Democratic Party. So that's what ended up happening. Now, I want to start off by reading to you guys, I guess, what sort of set this off. So someone can correct me on this. I think that Tomi Lahren didn't fawn over Kanye like everyone else did. By the way, before we get into this, I'd like to say how hilarious it is to all the conservatives who are fawning over Kanye, because it turned out obviously to fail completely. But anyways, it was it's so embarrassing, dude. Like, everyone hopping on the bandwagon, and Charlie Kirk on, I think it was in his Instagram story, saying, no one man should have all that power, which is, from the song Power. But I think it was Power. I'm pretty sure it was Power. But that's a pretty quotable line from Kanye West's music. But all those people have now sort of been put to shame, essentially. It was so bad, by the way. You guys know the libertarian flag where it says "Don't tread on me," saying the government stay away from me. It has the snake. They literally put "Don't tread on Ye," but it doesn't make sense because the morons thought that Ye was pronounced like Ye. That's not. Oh my god, it was so embarrassing. But anyways, here's what Tomi Lahren sent out on Twitter. Okay, she sent out saying, "Are you gonna turn on Kanye now? The ship was doomed to sink from the start, but hunger for fame and money was placed over the movement. Funny how he was a, quote, free thinker before, and now he's a, quote, traitor. Sounds a lot like a tactic of the left. You made your bed, now lie in it." Oh, damn. You know what that means, right? Tomi Lahren is going after a bunch of people on her side of the political aisle. She's, basically firing at people like Candace Owens, people like Charlie Kirk. It's something that's interesting. But honestly, she's obviously going after pretty much all the Kanye embracers, Kanye supporters, etc., etc. She made the comment of a free thinker. I want to talk about that really quickly because I want to explain how dumb of an argument it is. Although I feel like sometimes maybe it can use, but really rarely. But the free thinking argument is so stupid because, when Kanye uses it, it's he'll say something so dumb and so stupid and so void and without fact or logic or evidence, and then he just pivots to, "Oh, well, you're just trying to stifle my free thinking because unlike you, who belongs to this, almost I don't know, group of whatever politics, I'm a free thinker, man. I think freely. I don't care about the mob." And Tomi Lahren's used this argument as well, by the way. She used that when she got into the debate with Ben Shapiro. She was like, "Oh, I'm not going to be captive to the wardens of either political party because, I think the way I think, not for, whatever, fame or whatever." And so it's you do the same thing, first of all. But anyways, the Kanye thing is so dumb. I hate it so much because it's someone made the joke. I forgot exactly what the joke was, but it was essentially presenting a situation that's a joke in where, a person is doing something so dumb and harmful to themselves, but while you're trying to present them with logic and evidence as to why that's bad, they respond with, you're just trying to stifle my free thinking. It's such a dumb argument. It's really the argument for people who are losing an argument. And if you have pivoted to that, I'll give you maybe in some rare extreme cases, I'll maybe give you that, but not in this one. But anyway, so she sent this out, right? And I don't remember Tomi Lahren ever embracing Kanye, so to my understanding, she's not being a hypocrite here. However, you guys can correct me on that if I'm incorrect about that. So Tomi Lahren sent that out on Twitter. Candace Owens responds to this saying, Tommy, I think I can speak on behalf of people on both sides of the political aisle and say we are sorry about your failed career. The desperation to be relevant again by constantly subbing me and or attacking Kathy Griffin weekly doesn't bode well for any movement. Grow up. So here's what I don't really get. Okay, and I'm just being honest here. Obviously both these people are very, very dumb, and I even like put out a poll as to which one's dumber because it's a good question to ask as to who's dumber. It's a competition essentially. But by what measure does Tomi Lahren have a failed political career? Well, what? Like, when has that been a thing? Like, the one thing, when I point to, it's funny because I saw, Tomi Lahren, she is probably the best example to show that we're not a meritocracy. So it's because the one thing that Tomi Lahren's been able to do is get numbers. She's dumb as hell and insanely stupid, but she's got numbers. But also, the other thing about that would be, what does that have to do with the argument? What does that have to do with, when you're having a argument about, for our movement, we should never have, been with Kanye, and that's why I never did this. And you respond with, oh, your political career is dying. What does that have to do with that? That's another pivot where it's similar to the Tommy and Kanye thing where it's like, oh, I'm not going to be beholden to any political wardens. It's almost like that where it's like this pivot runaway point that you're essentially forfeiting and saying that, yeah, I'm going to take the L on this and just pivot to this, oh, bitch and whine and that type of stuff. So it doesn't really seem like a legitimate sort of thing, especially because like Tommy's on Fox and all this. It's just not, like, objectively speaking, because I think both these people are complete imbeciles. I don't see how her thing is, her career's dead. Now, she sent out another tweet, saying, I'm talking about leftist, this is from Tomi Lahren. She said, I'm talking about leftist tactics, conservative ideas, and failure of identity politics. You are talking about me. If you're trying to bait me into some Twitter war, it's not going to work. It's not about us. You can threaten me or lob low blows about my career, but I'm not playing. Okay, so this is interesting. So here's something funny. So what she's trying to, and here's what I'm going to say. There's another tweet that she sent out before that where she said, identity politics do not work. The fact that some of the conservative movement are trying to weaponize race and gender is truly disappointing. It's about economic and personal freedom. It's about national border security. It's limited government. Let the left play the race and gender cards. Okay, so what she's doing there is she's attacking Candace Owens from the angle of, the only reason you're anybody is because you're a black woman. That's it. Nothing else. It doesn't matter. If you were a white woman, no one would give a fuck that you're conservative. No one on the planet would care. Nobody. Not anyone would bat an eye because that's already so common. There's so many, obviously, conservative, white women. But because you're playing a token, that's the reason why you have the stature that you have. It's the same thing with Dave Rubin. He plays the double token card. He gets a bonus because not only is he a gay dude, but he's also a former liberal and formerly on TYT. Holy shit, that's like a triple token card. He hit the jackpot on that one, man. Maybe he was, wow. I wonder if he was like stacking that up the whole time. Anyways, she's right on that front. There may be a bit of hypocrisy here, though, because the reverse of that is that nobody would give a shit about Tomi Lahren if she wasn't what people perceive to be a pretty, white woman. I don't agree with that statement. However, that's what people perceive her as. And so the reverse of what she's saying about Kanye and Candace is that basically she's almost the beneficiary of the she's the beneficiary of the gender part, as well as some little extra points in there. But the tweet, where she said, I'm talking about leftist tactics, that was a direct response to Candace's tweet that she sent out. So she's essentially saying that, she's basically trying to say, she's basically saying, I'm talking about the movement as a whole, not about you and I. And so I'm not going to get into some Twitter beef about what we're saying, because it doesn't really have to do with you and you're sort of looking for attention. So I don't know. I mean, obviously I don't like either of these people, and I think that they're both insanely stupid. But the thing being is that I don't understand why Candace Owens has continued to be someone who is revered by the right wing. If you look at all of her tweets, it's like she'll send the dumbest tweet on planet Earth, right? And it'll get like 20,000 favorites, like 10,000 retweets. And I'm like, who the fuck is doing this? Who's favoriting and retweeting her tweets? It doesn't make sense. And I'm just sitting here confused out of my mind. And in the reply tweets, all like, oh yeah, keep it real, Candace. You can run for Senate. Like, that dumb stuff that Dave Rubin said, that Joe Rogan was like, oh my God, what are you talking about? He literally asked if he was high. But let's not get on a tangent here. The point here being, despite not only the stupidity of Candace Owens, but remember, the weird trend of accusations of conspiracies is really, really odd. And I'll explain what I mean by that. And I explained that yesterday. If you remember when she was on Joe Rogan, where they went back and forth on climate change, not only did she show that she's the dumbest person on planet Earth, but on top of that, she also showed this weird conspiracy trend. Remember, when Jamie brings up the page of the statistic of scientists who believe in man-made climate change, she says, well, who are they polling? Because a lot of times what ends up happening is they just poll the workers at the website. And I'm like, oh man, you are stupid. It's insanity. So she literally made the claim that the websites were just polling themselves. They weren't polling scientists. They were instead polling themselves. Insanity, pure insanity. Remember when the whoever it was in the White House who wrote that article basically saying that this is chaos in the White House, it's horrible. You remember that? She literally claimed that someone at the Washington Post just wrote it was fake. And the guest, I believe it was someone who was like a co-host on the show or a guest or whatever, was disgusted because it's like, it's so dumb. Like, you think the Washington Post is just going to fake an article like that? Are you crazy? They don't want to deal with that would be horrible for their advertising. And the Washington Post is historic. It's historic. They're not going to do that. But and then most recently, remember the whole suspicious packages thing? Well, she claimed that was really just a Democrat. Oh man, that didn't really pan out. You know what she did? She deleted the tweet. So how can someone with not only be so dumb, so insanely stupid? I've never seen anyone dumber in my entire life. I genuinely think that Candace is dumber than Tomi for sure. Based off of the climate change thing. Again, please, 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 if you have not watched that, go watch that. I am begging you. I am absolutely begging you. You have to go watch that. But anyways, the Candace, she's really dumb. She's a fraud, by the way. Remember that this whole thing was a backup plan. Remember, she made a doxing site. That was her original business plan. And the Young Turks covered it. They came out against it because it was horrible. It was like someone says some like shitty thing to you on Twitter and you put them on this list and now they're not going to be able to get employed. That's insanity. That's insanity. Everyone and their grandma came out against it because of how dumb it was. And then what ended up happening was that failed massively. And then what happened? All of a sudden, so coincidental that this flips. She's a fraud, man. Even conservatives have gone in on this. Blair White, they had a really crazy debate, which is another example of Candace Owens being an imbecile. But not only that, but Tree of Logic, who's a conservative, had a really good debunking video, or expose, I should say, rather than debunking video, And I mean, I disagree with her on pretty much everything, but that video was spot on, and it exposed Candace Owens for being a massive fraud. She doesn't actually believe what she's saying. She doesn't care about that. Everything for her is money and fame, and she's getting fat checks right now. Turning Point USA, I believe she's like some spokeswoman there or whatever, and her and Charlie are really close friends. I think they might even be like dating on the low, but and that's serious comment, by the way. But anyways, this is overall, I guess, like an overall conclusion. I mean, this sort of represents almost like a civil divide on the right, I guess you could say. Candace is clearly dumber. She didn't really make any legit arguments. Instead, she just made some. She just made this comment that essentially her career is on the down, and that's why she's trying to do it, which is just empirically false. So it doesn't look good for Candace. I mean, Tommy's right on on saying that we shouldn't have been with Kanye. So I mean, I guess Tommy was right in this, but she's also partially a hypocrite though.